students were bullied, taunted, and in my opinion, genuinely assaulted. And the strangest thing, although there were police stationed in the area, specifically in case the situation devolved, they never actually did anything. If the trans activists could do it in LA, why couldn't they do it in New York City? I still think about what happened in LA at that protest and how it got so bad. The truth is, I really don't know. I can't figure it out. But the events of the We Spot protest were weighing on me as I planned the Olympic Rings protest in New York. My feeling was that if we didn't pull this off safely, we would set back our movement because we will have shown that LA was not a fluke and that turfs just aren't safe to publicly express our views in this country. On July 24th, 2021, I led a group of a dozen women, including women from Women's Declaration International, Keep Prison Single Sex, as well as other feminist activists, in the protest at Rockefeller Center. I tried to be strict and keep everyone together. I felt like I was doing a head count every 10 minutes of the 2 hours we were out there. Over the 2 hours, we gave brief speeches on the harms of transgender ideology, especially regarding sports, and we chanted until we got hoarse. We received what I consider like heckling by 3 separate young people. They were walking alone and therefore much less of a threat. When I noticed a young woman making facial expressions that seemed to indicate she was becoming incensed by our demonstration, I literally pulled women back to the shady spot under the tree that had served as our base so that she wouldn't engage and would simply keep walking, and she did. At another point, we were getting heckled by a young woman that was crossing the street behind us, and they're always young women. Yeah. At another point, we were getting heckled by a young woman that was crossing the street behind us, and one of our participants that I hadn't had a chance to instruct on Grey Rock began engaging in a shouting match. Then, for whatever reason, the participants I had instructed on Grey Rock also started engaging in the shouting match. Then I once again used my body to diffuse the situation, literally leaping across and over several women to grab the initial shouter on our side and kind of hug her and just said, no, no, no. She immediately stopped, turned away from the situation, and we returned to our demonstration as planned. De-escalation is key if you're going to go out. The vast majority of the engagement we received at that protest and at all the protests I've attended this year has been supportive. From gender clinics to women's prisons to women's sports, everywhere we've gone, what is undeniable as the average people are not okay with this agenda. And it's happening because average people are kept in the dark that it's even going on and to what extent. Never forget, the vast majority of people alive, not just in this country, but around the world, agree with us on these issues. Always let that truth give you strength. I firmly believe that if you make a good plan, you can have safe turf protest just about anywhere in this country. Use your discretion, use your best judgment. That's what I believe. I can't overemphasize the planning part. I wouldn't just show up and wing it. There are plenty of great guides available to help anyone learn some good basic techniques for organizing a protest. Numbers will matter, experience will matter, the specific circumstances and geography will matter, but I say we use our right to free speech on this issue while we still have it. As we learn from what they did to Thistle, they are so desperate to take even that away that they're not beyond leveraging non-existent laws to do so. I attended a talk last month, also in New York City, held by the Center for Bioethics and Culture. The talk was titled, How Gender Harms Women and Girls. The most disruptive thing that happened at this talk was that my phone went off and started playing electronic dance music right at the start of Natasha Chart's remarks. My sincerest apologies to Natasha Chart and, of course, the organizer, Jennifer Law. Other than me, being me at this talk, it went off as scheduled, without disruption, interruption, and without any danger. As we arrived at the hotel where the talk was held, there were maybe a half a dozen protesters outside. They were tame. From what I remember, they were almost all women again. They're always women. They held signs that read, lesbians for trans women. The signs might as well have read straight women or lesbians for men. But I didn't have any signs of my own, but determined not to be out-demonstrated, I started chanting, keep prison single sex, keep prison single sex, keep prison single sex. The worst thing I overheard one of them say was, you know, you're really sad. But that was it. That was it. Look, there definitely could not have been more than 10 of these women. This was the organized protest to the event. 10 women, just like us in this room, except somewhere their logic around sexual orientation and sex-based rights had gone awry. They weren't belligerent or violent, just misguided. They were women with whom we might have engaged in conversation about the issue if we arrived at the hotel early enough. Nobody touched us. Nobody got in our faces. There was no violence of any kind for anyone on either side. After the talk, there was a trans supremacist activist that was especially obnoxious. It was a trans-identified male, and he was jeering from across the street as we spilled out of the venue after the talk was over. He was young, appearing to be maybe in his early 20s. I assume the hotel staff had ushered him across the street, but I really don't know. A few of the women went over and engaged. Snarky verbal jabs were exchanged for a good while, but that was it. Karen Davis, you all know from YouTube, even posted footage of the interaction on her channel. Other women might have as well, I'm not sure. You can check it out for yourself. On a post on her YouTube channel, Karen Davis stated a few weeks after that incident that she ended up sitting directly from that guy somewhere. I assume maybe on public transportation, but I'm really not sure. She reports that she didn't say or do anything, and neither did she. There was peace. In addition to the two events in New York City I described above, I've protested from Washington, D.C. to Washington State within this last year. Luckily, there's been no violence or what I consider genuinely intimidating harassment at any of these 7, maybe more, Turf Street demonstrations I've attended this year. They've been extremely annoying, but I've never felt physical fear. I mentioned before that the vast majority of this response we get is supportive. Literally everyone is a TERF. If you get an opportunity to attend protests on this issue, consider it. If no one else is organizing a demonstration, consider taking it up yourself, especially if there are other TERFs in your area and everyone is just waiting for something to come around so they can participate. Definitely do reach out to women that have at least attended other protests so you have some sense of what to consider and how to plan. I believe if we are too afraid to show our resistance publicly, we will make it look like there is no resistance.
Right. Yeah.
I applaud all the women looking for a way to join us that makes sense for them. I know there are many. If in life physical protests are genuinely not doable for you, we still have the other option, which is the paper protest. I was asked to deliver a presentation at Women's Declaration International this past winter, and there I tried to advance the idea of paper protests. If you cannot find an actual physical protest or really simply don't want to, you can and should take up paper protests. Paper protests are simply the use of informational stickers, pamphlets, leaflets, and flyers. It is a lot of fun devising up little pieces of paper that explain about the harms and horrors of trans ideology, then more fun still to think of where you'll place them all and go out and actually do it. At the beginning of this talk, I told you that I would explain why you should listen to me, but I don't think I ever did. What I hope I did manage to convey is that you should listen to you. You should tune into your values, your fears, your strengths, your weaknesses, your courage, and answer this call. I also told you at the beginning of this talk that I would use my courage to call on yours, and I hope that I have. Please come to this fight. Please bring your weak sauce first attempt. Please bring your really earth-shattering idea or your super basic one. Please come tell us about how scared you were putting up your very first sticker. Please come tell us about how you ran out of ink on your printer, printing up 5 pamphlets, but you went out with what you had and you stuck those in a book somewhere for another woman to find. If you're lucky enough to meet up with other TERFs and do an actual demonstration somewhere in public, definitely share that. Some of the women in this movement have paid a price we'll never have to. They were doing this work before the term TERF even existed to drive us all together. They were doing it when it really was completely sad and lonely and isolated. They did it so the rest of us didn't have to, and for that, we owe them. We will make good on that debt with efforts, ingenuity, and fight of our own. We will hold signs, we will draw pamphlets, we will chant, we will picket, we will write letters, we will make phone calls. We will take pieces of sidewalk chalk and write a message on a piece of pavement that only 1 or 2 people will see before it gets washed out, but we will continue the work. Sometimes we'll consider whether our efforts are worth it, but they are. They always are. You were stronger after you did it than you were before. You were a better soldier in the struggle than you were before, and for that reason alone, it was worth it. Courage is a muscle. If you've never used it before, it will be weak. It will ache at first use. Over time, it will get stronger. Over time, you will get better. Over time, we'll all get better. We'll keep leveling up and picking more women and spreading a message until one day we will finally win. Your participation can make the difference now. We may yet herald the dawn of a new day. So please join us. Thank you very much.
I hope everyone feels motivated. I've been told we have time for Q&A, and so our speakers have returned to the front. And I'm going to be moderating if you want to raise your hand, and I will hand you the mic. Don't hang on mine. I know how that goes. Okay. Hang on in the back here. I'm gonna hold it.
Okay, yeah, hi, my name's Marissa. I am an elementary school counselor in Milwaukee. I have about 500 students in K through 5th grade, and I cannot abide gender ideology ever fucking entering within the walls of my school. So I need to be visible and vocal, but how do I do that without losing my job?
Who are you asking that to? Everyone and anyone.
Who wants to go?
Yeah, the way to do this is you get other people to come to your school board meetings and talk, like I do, and I say, there's a parent in this school district who has asked me to come speak, and it makes people really nervous. They don't know who it is. And you can find people to come and do that. I do that on behalf of Partners for Ethical Care. There are many parents who will do it outside of their district, and many women who will just come. If you ask them, they might say, what do you want me to say, for example? And you can co-create that. You usually get 2 minutes at a school board meeting. A lot of times it's also helpful to complete something like a FOIA request or get something on record that you're asking for exactly. Partners for Ethical Care brings materials, so we give irreversible damage and some other materials to educate. And for the most part, even if they're kind of pro-inclusivity, what generally happens is, like happened at one school board meeting in Ohio, I said, one of the school board members after the meeting said, it's such a shame that this parent that you're talking about doesn't feel comfortable coming to the school. And I said, well, they're kind of scared of threats and people kind of yelling at them, telling them they don't love their kids and all of this stuff. And then magically, a school board member said that exact thing to me. How awful I was, how terrible I was for coming there, and how I obviously don't love children. It was so clear what was happening. But yes, I would suggest asking people, strangers from the internet, to come to your school board meetings and continuously show up. It will make people very nervous.
Okay. I have 2 hands up in the front.
I just want to.
I'll come talk to your school board if you want to.
I was just gonna
Can I add one thing to what you said? When you say, I am here because a parent has asked me to come, you don't have to say it's a parent in that school district. I'm a parent. I'm asking every single one of you to go to school board meetings in your areas and speak on behalf of women and children.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions, comments? Okay, could we just thank the panelists? That was a fantastic. Exit out here, there's 20 very bored and sad looking activists out there. So maybe we can cheer them up. And then we're off to the Capitol.
Yeah, lady forward.
Lady forward step 2. We have this room until
What's
3:30, so you can hang out, you can talk, you can trickle out. And thank you everybody for attending. Anything else? We're good to go. All right, have a great rest of your day.
Ladies, thanks for being here. My apologies for that technical glitch. I had to switch phones in the middle of the broadcast. We are moving on to the Speaker's Corner event. That begins at 4 Central Time. So I'm going to head over there. There is a link to that event and the other events that we're going to be live streaming for the rest of this Sisters for Sisters weekend. So if you're interested in watching Speaker's Corner, which I highly recommend because it's just everyday women speaking their truth on the street, head over to that link. It's all in the WLRN Courage Calls to Courage Facebook event page. One event page with all the links in it. All right. Thank you so much for being here.